Tiger Woods. All right. Let us change gears. What do we got here? Bioware dev rages at gamers and humiliates himself. Is this about Dragon Age? Is it one of the Dragon Age devs again?
So this super weird out of touch guy, Mark Dara, made a video complaining about gamers. Mark Dara, an ex-dev from Bioware. And what's even more hilarious is how he's getting all upset in the comments of that video, which were...
Oh, so an ex-Bioware dev who's trying to protect his... Why is he trying to protect the company's reputation when he's not a part of the company anymore? What?
Definitely going to be taking a look at. He's like rage responding to people. It's great entertainment for us. First, a little more info on Mark Dara. So yeah, once again, this guy is an ex-dev for Bioware, although apparently he was brought back to do some consulting on Veilguard. What some people are...
Oh, he was on consulting for Veilguard. That's why. The game sucks just like Avowed.
If that's true, that's hilarious. What we do know, however, is that he was at the very least attempting to prop up and defend Veilguard. For example, Rock, Paper, Shotgun here as a headline. BioWare's Mark Dara thinks Veilguard's the first Dragon Age where the combat's actually fun. What I see in Veilguard is a game that finally bridges the gap. Oh, and you know what? Here's some more information on the whole Veilguard consulting thing. Games Radar had wrote, former Dragon Age boss now consulting on the Veilguard. No way. Says the RPG really is the best Dragon Age game that I've ever played. Yeah, so that's the sort of dude we're talking about.
Oh my god.
Subtext reading. Mark Dara has high praise for BioWare's latest. And apparently this dude is a BioWare veteran. How can this dude just like tarnish BioWare's legacy like this? Oh, it's the best Dragon Age game ever. It's so...
Oh, it's because of this. Anything that anything that has like a whiff of DEI or bullshittery, right? It'll turn into this. Fucking Dragon Age Veilguard did the same thing, right? It was the same. It was the same. It might have been less. Oh no, it was more. Never mind. All time at 89,000. They got lucky. But yeah, now it's players right now. 6,000 players right now. Yeah. I mean, then again, Dragon Age Veilguard has been out longer.
To BioWare's credit, they did used to make good games. The frick is this guy doing? Acting like, oh, Veilguard's the best EA game. BioWare's better than ever. Dudes like this are just complete sellouts. Trying to sell out to the modern audience corpos out there and all that.
Yeah, honestly, I don't...
So that's it. I don't to the current...
I don't even know if they're gonna make their money back on fucking Avowed, right? Cause how much did it make to build Avowed? And then they spent like what, 5 years, 7 years or some shit like that, right? Oh fuck.
News with this guy, PC Gamer, making this tweet that says, BioWare veteran calls out the cruelty of fans celebrating layoffs, saying, you are crossing a line, and you're probably attacking the wrong person anyway. The source for this quote is, as mentioned, a video he made, which is on his channel, and we're going to take a look at a portion of that video. I've already watched the full thing twice myself, and I'm just going to summarize the great majority of the video, which is simply that the middle part of the video, he's essentially just making excuses for bad game devs. And the latter part of the video, he's essentially trying to dictate who gamers are allowed to criticize and who they're not allowed to criticize. There's also a prevalent recurring theme in his video, which is he doesn't actually use the word criticize. He doesn't want to admit that gamers have fair critiques for these corporations and these devs. No, instead he phrases it specifically as gamers attacking and complaining. And I don't think that's coincidence. I think there's one of two things going on here. Either he's intentionally phrasing it that way, or he's subconsciously phrasing it that way. Either thing leading to the conclusion that he clearly doesn't think gamers are really valid to criticize these corpos, and he's just trying to play cover.
Well, I mean, he's selling what, right? These people are selling a product to these consumers, so why does he think that they can't have an opinion? They bought the product. They're gonna play it and then say whatever they want because they bought it. It's like, what?
For them.
So confused.
But yeah, that's not going well because gamers are seeing right through his nonsense and calling him out, which, as mentioned, he's getting upset about in his own comment section. All that said, now I'm going to play a
So
portion
he's getting mad at people for being people, or just being human in general.
of his video for you, because while I could summarize this part too,
Alright, dude.
it's just especially amusing what he says here, so enjoy.
Did you read the title? Did it say something like,
Oh, oh yeah, that's right, he made a whole video. I think Asmogul watched it too. Can't remember. Yeah, he did.
your $70 doesn't buy you cruelty? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. The fact that you bought a game that you didn't like doesn't give you the right to be cruel or unkind.
I don't agree with him. Already. Huh? What do you mean?
To the people that developed that game. Now I'm going to be clear.
I'm just gonna say this. Anyone can give their criticism on a game they spent money on or they viewed through observation, right? Anyone can give an opinion. Now, whether you take that opinion, that's up to you, right?
Clear about something. I'm not saying that you have
Whether
to
you
like
consider
the thing you bought.
opinion,
I'm not saying even that
you,
you
right?
aren't allowed to complain about the thing you bought.
Wait, why can't they? What? Where's he going with this?
You can have whatever opinion that you feel like towards a game. Even if that opinion is stupid and wrong, you are entitled to that opinion. And to some degree, you're entitled to express that opinion to the corporation, to the video game studio that created this game that you bought. You paid 70 of your own dollars for this game and it disappointed you and you're angry about that. That is fine. You are entitled to be angry about it. And you're entitled to express that anger in certain channels. If you are mad at that Ubisoft game, be mad at Ubisoft. Express your anger to Ubisoft or to the studio that made the game. But you cross a line when you start being cruel about it. So why?
People are cruel because they can. I think there's something wrong with this guy's perception on how people like to communicate things. What do you want, little pooper? The fuck out of here, you fucking weirdo. Get that gay shit out of here.
Why am I saying you don't get to be cruel because you spent $70? Let's walk through it. 1, you shouldn't be cruel at all. What are you doing? It's a video game.
Why can't I be cruel in a video game? Dream, that was homophobic. I don't give a fuck. I'd pike anybody.
You don't need to go out of your way to cause harm to other people because of a video game that you don't like.
Okay, so yeah, cruel. He goes off about being cruel and never really defines what he means by cruel. Chances are that's something he would use to fit his own meaning whenever it's convenient.
Stop being a transformer, okay?
And
what do you want?
Here's a question, bruh. Why do these giant corporations get to be cruel to gamers? Trying to take our money, charge us $70 for their AAA slop, oftentimes promising features that are not even there, and releasing.
Yeah, I mean, look, games have degraded over the years, right? Some of these games, right? They just they lack the depth. They lack the character design sometimes, right? They lack the characters having a personality. They lack story elements, right? A lot of the story nowadays seem just like generic fuck all. It's bad. Um, fucking what else? I mean, you got games like Concord, right? You're getting a lot of like like MOBA games, fucking PvP games. Right, a lot of replicas, right, of clones, right? So it's kind of like
games that are far too buggy than they should be at release.
yeah, that too. There, a lot of them have bugs. Um, a lot of them don't have right the. Well, I'm thinking of more like how what you call it, fucking Avowed doesn't have like physics in some of it. Like the world seems kind of lifeless, right? In Avowed versus right in like Skyrim where it was more lively, right? People or NPCs actually acting like NPCs. While in Avowed, it seems like everything's just like an animation, and there's nothing, there's no substance, right? They're not real, right? A lot of the arrows seem kind of weird, right? There's no physics to the arrows in a sense. There's a lot of tracking and shit.
Sometimes essentially using players as their own beta testers without properly disclosing that that's even what they're doing. It's an extremely shady and corrupt industry. You don't see this guy advocating for gamers to get refunds on these slop games. No, instead he's just trying to dictate how gamers are allowed to respond when these corporations try and swindle people out of their money. And of course I understand that they're not literally forcing someone to buy their game. What? They don't like threaten them to buy the game or else. But as mentioned, a lot of the time these corporations are very dishonest in how they're presenting their game as if it's a complete product when a lot of the time these AAA games really aren't.
If you feel like you need to focus it,
I guess
down
Loki's like a
onto
pretty
an
good
actual
healer.
human being, I mean, that's really sad. I'm sorry. That's very sad. And hopefully you can grow beyond that. But I will give you a couple of outlets. If you need to complain at a human being, I'm going to say you don't get to go lower than the first person in the credits.
Yes.
What do you mean? Why can't I just tell you to go fuck off to your face? Because I would. I would tell you to eat shit if I could.
The complaining police over here. Oh, you don't get to do this. You can only do that. And an important thing to take note of is how he's not.
I mean, I'm just trying to prove a point because he's being a fucking weirdo about it. But
I don't generally see gamers going after like specific people who worked on a game unless those people went out of their way to attack gamers first. For example, we have seen devs at certain companies, certain devs, literally making inflammatory statements that target
I don't know why
with
devs
hostility,
do this. They like
in
shoot
which
themselves
case,
in the foot
yeah,
by
the
doing
gamers
this all the fucking
may
time.
very well respond to it, and they're allowed to do that. Or in other circumstances,
it just makes you look like a
devs,
fucking
for
idiot
example, some of
and
the
a
Veilguard
dick.
devs who very obviously put in like self-insert slop into the game, which we also directly see negatively impacted the game.
Yeah,
people are allowed to criticize.
Just stop doing that. Just make a good game and nobody has to fucking flame you. Just fucking make a good game and you won't get torched. That's all.
Criticize those choices and the people who made
I mean,
them.
if you want to get burned,
doesn't mean
that's
you're
fine.
free from criticism. And you can't
I
criticize
like
me.
burning
You can
people
only
too.
criticize the first
Chaos
name in
is
the
great,
credits.
right?
Be a human being, have some empathy.
Empathy. I mean, I do sometimes, but for you, I don't.
And stop being cruel. Stop.
No, I want to be cruel. See, now you doing this just makes me want to be cruel.
Throwing a party because a bunch of people lost their jobs.
Well, I mean, that's their fault. They created the game, did they not? They decided to put all their hopes and dreams on this one game so that it might sell enough to break even. And did it break even? Well, I don't know. Doesn't seem like it ever since they got fucking cut.
Because you don't know the circumstances that resulted in the thing that you're mad at. People
Well, I mean, maybe if you guys were more transparent about it, maybe we wouldn't have this issue, you know? Maybe that's a solution. Maybe instead of saying all this shit, maybe think of a solution that can, you know, fix the communication issues that's been going on between the makers and the community. I don't know. Or maybe just, you know, stop being weird about it. I don't know.
people deserve some grace. People deserve some empathy from you. And if you can't provide that,
Well, I mean, if they will only get empathy if they deserve it. You are not one of them now. Okay.
then stay off the internet completely.
Yeah, the lack of self-awareness with this
Yeah,
guy, man, is
I-
pretty astonishing. Telling us to
the
stay
guy
off the
needs
internet,
help.
that's what he should be doing, really. Like, he's just making terrible points and making himself look like a fool. And again,
Yes.
like I mentioned multiple times, it only gets worse in his own comment section. We're almost there, by the way. And there's 2 more points I'll bring up really quick. It shouldn't be surprising when people celebrate some of these companies going through layoffs after these companies have been very predatory towards gamers, and or they have people working at those companies that have made public statements showing hostility to gamers. Quite literally, you can argue that with these companies going through layoffs, the industry is actually healing. The final point is that it comes off really hollow when he's pretending to care about people that get laid off. He's unwilling to criticize the devs who are factually bringing these studios down, which very well may result in a game underperforming and then everyone getting laid off. And I'm using everyone a bit facetiously here, but you know, a massive number of people. If he really didn't want layoffs to happen, then he shouldn't be upset when gamers find people responsible for dragging these games down and then criticizing the bad work that they do. That bad work can directly lead to the game underperforming and then, surprise, layoffs. But nah, instead he's ardently defending these people for some reason. Anyways, let me know what you think about that stuff. Now on to the comments. A top comment reads, "A simple bill of $70 gives me the right to critique a product."
Yeah.
And Mark responds with this really weird comment that says, "Watch the video, dislike something, express that dislike to the studio, but why are you crawling into someone's personal social media feed? If you need a human, look at the first few names in the credits." We can then see a user questioning how Mark knows that person is even doing what he's accusing him of, to which someone else points out that he really doesn't. As it turns out, that comment that Mark left is one that he's been copy-pasting all over the comment section.
He's just been copy-pasting the same message. Nice. He went full NPC mode.
Particularly amusing because he tries to say to act like a human being in his video, but he comes off
yeah, he says act like a human being, but he just acts like a fucking doofus. So it's like, I don't...
like some kind of robot. Like, it comes off very fake. And then he's just copy-pasting
doesn't even
slop in the
act like
comment
a
section.
human.
I think this guy should take his own advice. Like, bro, try
Yeah,
and act like a
exactly.
human instead of a bot. Oh,
He's
look,
like a
here's a comment
doofus,
he left that's
gets
actually
treated
not
like a
just a
doofus,
copy-paste.
right?
This user says, "You have never once called out your colleagues for their cruelty." And Mark says, "Nope. Yeah, it's not a copy-paste, but it's still definitely not helping his case." This user says, "Studios, attack the gamers. Gamers, retaliate. Studios, shocked Pikachu face." And Mark Dara's back with his copy-paste nonsense. We can see another example of that right here.
I'm confused at this. Why even make the video if you're just gonna do this weird copy pasta bullshit? Did you not want the credit? Like, I don't get this. Did you not want the criticism? Is this not why you made the video? Why did you post it on the fucking internet if you didn't want to get criticized?
Where this person says, quote unquote, "Don't ask questions."
Why do streamers do the fucking things they do when they know they're gonna get fucking criticized regardless? Come on, dude. Come on, dude. Let's just think about this.
It's just consume product and wait for next product. And there's Mark's typical copy-paste response. There's plenty more examples of him doing this, but I'm sure you get the point. Interestingly enough, this comment reads, "You know what? Credit where credit's due. The comment section is not turned off." And Mark says, "Not yet." All this goes back to what I said.
Dude, this guy is such a fucking moron. Why even do? Why even create the video in the first place? He's the one who invited this himself. I don't. and then he tells people not to criticize. It's like, what is, dude?
Said earlier about how I
Fucking
don't
brain
think this
dead,
guy
man.
genuinely does care about the industry. He seems intent on defending certain people from criticism. I think we all know who those certain people probably are. Because even just taking a look at his video and his actions in the comment section, he's only giving gamers even more reasons to despise the AAA industry. Lastly, let's take a look at this exchange where a user says, I guess devs can be cruel for years, and the second it happens back to them, the gamers are the bad guys, and the devs are all of a sudden the victim. Right. Mark says, ideally we would see decorum from everyone. But people point out how...
What do you mean, from everyone? You guys are never transparent. This is why people don't trust devs sometimes. Because sometimes you guys are shady as fuck. Right? Your corporate structure is shady as fuck too. That's why no one fucking trusts you. And then when you make it, when the game comes out and people call it shit, and then people start criticizing you and start asking why the fuck is it like this, and you fucking cry wolf. It's like, dude, this is self-inflicted wounds on yourself, man. You caused this.
Well, he doesn't seem to really stand by that
You
at
did
all.
this.
The next response saying, that was of no priority to you in this video. And indeed, he never mentioned that at all. Instead, he was trying to frame all the critiques from gamers as attacks and unjust complaining, and mentioning nothing of the awful behavior we've seen from numerous devs in the industry. The next response reads, people didn't when it was one-sided for the last decade. Too late to do a 180 and say people should now, when the other side has the upper hand. Western AAA games have been terrible for value for the longest time, and there's no reason to buy them over indie or Eastern developed games. And then this response says, so where's your video about game dev cruelty, Mark? Where's your article about that? What a snake. It's much more cruel to be an executive producer who pushes for or allows.
No. It's much more cruel to take someone's life. Yeah. I shouldn't be sorry. Fucking talking about fucking war efforts and shit. Fucking
all the elements that were guaranteed to get everyone working under you laid off. Hey, that's kind of similar to what I mentioned earlier, and how it comes off like Mark is very disingenuous. But continuing, the user says, the team's
Mark is a
well-being was your
retard.
responsibility as far as game production goes.
He's
Unless
a
you were
retard.
telling me that EA was pushing all those undesirable elements, and you'd like to tell us
He had
that.
a fucking stick
but you
up
probably
his
weren't
ass.
even one to rein your more belligerent coworkers in, let alone keep their sales
He
telling
started
agendas
walking
out
on
of the product.
landmines for
Now
some
what, I'll read
reason.
one more comment right here. This one that says, realistically, we see attacks from devs. You need to get comfortable with the fact that you're not a victim. All in all, I think the people in the responses did a great job of responding to Mark and pointing out the issues with the pathetic arguments that he attempted to make. Once
Yeah, I
again,
mean,
let
just
me know
look
what
at
you
Sweet
think
Baby
about all of
Inc.,
this
that
stuff in
fucking
the comments
consultancy
here. And if you
group.
enjoyed my coverage, please consider
They were
liking
trying
and
to,
or
like,
subscribing.
they were
Appreciate
literally
ya.
trying
Have
to
a
shit
great
on
weekend ahead,
games
and I'll see you in the
and
next
gamers.
one.
Like, yeah, fuck that. You can noose yourself. You can noose yourself instead. How about that one? Yeah. Uh. Wait, was there a full interview of this? That was the White House briefing. Oops. I think it was this one. Yeah, this looks like it. Australia got it.
I gotta start.
I think we'll watch that some other time or tomorrow. Uh.
Is the rise and the massive. You're about
See
to
what's
witness
going
the
over here.
rise and the massive.
They made Dauntless a hellscape. Then fired the devs. Oh. Did they shit can the team?
And insane fall of a studio. This whole thing is wild. Now, I'll start with a question. Do you know the feeling whenever you're playing a game, it wipes all your progress, and then it asks you to pay for stuff that you already had? I actually don't, because that's not normal. But
Yeah,
it is
that
what
isn't normal.
basically happened to the players of Dauntless. Dauntless being a game made by Phoenix Labs. So
Wait,
imagine
they made
pouring
it.
hundreds of hours
Wait, you have to pay for it now?
into a game
No
only to
way.
basically have that erased overnight. What went down was not a misstep, it was a full-on...
No, dude. No, dude. Why did you do this to yourself? Why did you put 4,000 plus hours? Why? Why did you do this to yourself?
It was a full-on betrayal that left that game's community reeling.
Well, I mean, it
But
was free to play,
it did
and then
not
they
happen
fucked
for
it.
the traditional super corporate reasons. The story behind it is absolutely wild. And it's funny to think that this all started with a $150 million acquisition. But where it would end is crazy. Because
that's why they got fucked.
as it turns out, selling your soul to the crypto bros
Yeah.
wasn't really the shortcut to success that
Oh my god, no way. You guys sold out to a They sold out to a crypto company? No fucking way. Oh, it's a fucking Singaporean fucking crypto Web3 king. Oh shit, dude, they done fucked themselves. Rip. Here it goes. Just lit their business on fire.
But where it would end is crazy, because as it turns out, selling your soul to the crypto bros wasn't really the shortcut to success that some people thought it was. This whole thing's wild, so let's do the story. Back in 2014, a bunch of Riot Games staff basically decided they'd had enough of things at the big leagues and they fancied a crack at going indie, but going indie with a big scale. So they founded Phoenix Labs and they had a simple philosophy, which was small teams, big games.
Rip.
And
Oh,
this is something that
Vancouver-based.
should have
Oh,
worked, because
well,
these were
we now
experienced
know why
developers
they
and they were
fucking
well-connected
failed.
people. Now, this led to a game called
sorry, I
Dauntless,
shouldn't-
which was a free-to-play Monster Hunter-like.
Shit. It's always Canada land. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I mean, it's California and fucking Canada land, or some places where you should be squinting your eyes and being like, yeah, some of these game devs are cooked.
Game. And if you think about it, especially at the time, this was a damn smart move. Number one, there was no free-to-play offering quite like that at the time, and they probably counted on their Western UX sensibilities, helping that appeal to a broader audience who like the idea of Monster Hunter.
Yeah,
just
and
found
they
Monster
were
Hunter
the
too
free-to-play
arcane to get
option,
into.
so
And that
anyone
might
could
sound
get
like
into
a
it.
crazy thing to say today, especially given there's a new Monster Hunter on the horizon. But you've got to remember that Monster
Yeah, I
Hunter
can't wait for
World
that
came
new
out
Monster
in
Hunter.
2018.
I don't know what I'm
And
gonna
at
do
the
yet
time
for
of
weapons.
2014, most
I think
people
I'm
knew
gonna do
Monster
like
Hunter
heavy
from
bow
handheld
gun
games. And you know what? This plan actually
maybe
worked.
sword.
When
I
Dauntless
don't
hit
know
its
yet.
open beta in May 2018,
Or maybe
it
just
didn't
go
just
heavy
do
bow
well.
gun
It
and light bow gun.
properly exploded so much so that by July they had racked up 2 million players. Now remember, these are
Dual Blades
ex-Rioters,
was pretty
and it
fun.
took Riot quite a lot of time to put the S in Riot Games. Phoenix didn't want to do that, so in 2018, Phoenix made 2 big moves. first up, Dauntless launched as an Epic Games Store exclusive. Now, this was a risky thing in some ways. It was certainly limiting, but they were still posting humongous, big player numbers, and they got a big bag of cash from Epic. That could not have hurt. They then acquired Bot School Inc., which is basically a studio, and they would help with a cross-platform release. And for most people, that's really as far as the Phoenix Labs story goes, right? Like, you've probably seen Dauntless. They hit 30 million players by 2022, but haven't really heard that much else. You'd think it's mission accomplished, but no. Lots of things would begin to go very badly indeed. What I just covered is what the gaming audience broadly knew, but I left out a small little detail. The 2020 investment of $150 million from Garena. Garena are a fun bunch, and they're a subsidiary of C Group. We'll get into them soon.
C Group.
And this is a little bit of a turning point for Phoenix Labs. You see, like many, Phoenix Labs was venture-backed at the start, and for the VCs, this was absolutely great, like a big investment came in. As for Phoenix, though, this should have been a good thing as well. Garena basically saw Phoenix Labs as their ticket to the big leagues of PC and console gaming, and Phoenix Labs probably saw loads of dollar signs. They already had a big successful game, and this was their chance to expand their reach into South America and Southeast Asia. And it must have helped that C Group were, in fact, the regional publisher of League of Legends in that space, so there was obvious.
Oh, that's why they did that. Yeah, on paper it was good, but
contacts. But as it would turn out,
yeah.
regular corporate cynicism
yeah,
would
but
actually
the
have you
corporate structure was
underestimate
like,
just
it
how
had something
badly
else
things
in
were going
mind.
to end up going. But things would not collapse instantly, so here's how it went down. Now, Garena's bread and butter, of course, is mobile gaming, and they wanted Phoenix to be their sort of go-to core game developer moving into PC and console. The problem there is there's an obvious clash, right? Garena is mobile. In experience, yes, but also in terms of mindset, lessons learned, all of those things. And I think this was bound to cause friction. But it's
because I bet they wanted to put in like a lot of weird like microtransactions in the fucking game.
Say that Phoenix certainly did not help matters.
Yeah.
By now, Phoenix had 10 games in development, and that might sound kind of insane.
Holy
One company,
shit.
10 games simultaneously.
They had 10 projects ranging from early R&D to being in full production. What the fuck? And they just canceled it. Just canceled all of them.
But I'll assume that they knew not all would be winners and that this was actually their strategy. They said, small teams, big games. So it must have been
okay.
And there are broadly two ways to read this. I imagine it's a bit of both. One way to read it is, they get investment, the investor has high expectations, maybe too high, and they're unsustainable. Another is simply that Phoenix Labs' leadership had just received a shitload of money. They had a winning game in the form of Dauntless, and they got a little bit too big for their boots, too ambitious. But what we know, as we fast forward to early 2023, just after the 30 million player milestone for Dauntless, things would start to look a little bit dicey. The problem with that investment is that Garena themselves had a year of lower returns that we do not believe were the fault of Phoenix Labs. They were doing other things, all those mobile things. So because Garena had lower returns, they decided to shift their focus back to mobile and back to regional licensed titles. And that meant spinning off, getting rid of Phoenix Labs. That means it's less that Phoenix Labs failed and more that they no longer fitted the new strategy. Now this is where the comeback story could have began. This is where things really could have turned bright. A new era, more oriented towards their mission, where somehow they find money that believes in them. And that is how Phoenix Labs framed it when they talked about what happened next. They revealed that they were going private, with investors backing management. This seemed really good, but there was something a bit curious. Nobody really knew who those investors were.
Yeah.
It was very much kept hush. And it's now that we reach the point in this video where the bad news gets worse and the rate of decline will only hasten. Layoffs, dead projects, and crypto. Things really did take a public and rapid turn.
Crypto.
Here's the report from Game Developer, and this revealed that Phoenix Labs' new backers were in fact Forte.
Oh no, dude. Oh, well, there goes your games. Ripping pepperonis. That's it. Pack it up, boys. Fucking one-way ticket to burning your company. when you're not a fucking crypto company.
Chain company that raised $725 million in 2021. But what's a little more curious is who the money was raised from.
Yo, what
C
the fuck?
Capital. The same people I talked about earlier. C Capital are a Singaporean tech conglomerate. They own Garnera, or the previous bunch who
That's
owned
why.
Phoenix, and that meant that Phoenix Labs had went from one subsidiary to another company that the subsidiary's parent had heavily invested in. And of course, C also published League of Legends in Southeast Asia, which certainly makes you think, who knew who? How did all of this happen? And the troubling thing here is how weird things are about to get, but how little nuance we have on the actual deal, and how little public reporting there has been. But what we do appear to be quite sure about is just how much they wanted to keep this under wraps. Back at Phoenix Labs, new hires were allegedly left in the dark as to their new owner until after they signed paperwork.
Sorry.
And existing staff were allegedly told to
You don't
keep
get to know.
quiet. Now, we did get a PR response after game developer broke the story, but it's one of those PR responses that is so weak that it basically tells us what's up. I'll quote it directly. The acquisition was not announced, but I don't think there was a formal policy around disclosure. That absolutely does sound suspicious. And to make it even more suspicious, well, co-founders of Phoenix Labs had been leaving since early 2023.
Oh,
and along with
so
this
they were
deal,
on the out
CEO
already.
and CFO of Phoenix Labs would step down, with the CEO staying on as an advisor. And certainly there are
Jesus.
raised eyebrows here, even thinking
Yo,
about
what
the
the
law
fuck?
connections, what sorts of deals were made, and just why these things were so secret. Now, with the current CEO standing down and moving to an advisory role, they needed a new one. And a new one was parachuted in from a blockchain subsidiary that was owned by Forte, the people who just acquired Phoenix. This is
Blockchain.
already bloody strange,
Yeah.
but it actually only accelerates from here. December 2023 saw
blockchain, yo.
34 layoffs, and by this stage, things were truly dire. And the last remaining hope for the company was something called Project Dragon. Now, Forte saw blockchain potential in Project Dragon, so they really pushed that project. And they basically said, look, if you guys get funding for this, we're going to back you, which, yes, does mean Forte were actually not willing to fund the development of that game. Staff were told to find funding within 3 months. But, of course, by the time this is all going down, game funding had, to say the very least, shrank humongously.
Jesus.
Dragon, of course, would not find a publisher, and that led to May 2024's big Zoom call. On this Zoom call, 150 staff were laid off and 3 projects were axed. Now, Project Dragon was the last big hope, and the wild thing is, Dragon died weeks from a planned early access release. Weeks.
Ouch.
That left them with only 2 things. Another game they had developed called Fae Farm that basically doesn't appear to have really made much of a dent, and of course, Dauntless. By this stage, Phoenix Labs had been gutted. It was a shell of its former self. And to steer them forward, they did in fact not have a CEO. Now on paper they did, right? The CEO, the
COO,
Forte, moved in from one of their
was heading it
subsidiaries.
now?
But it wasn't there. Not because he quit, rather because he reportedly vanished. Just vanished in 2024. And so what happened is this.
What? He's just up and gone? Not doing a thing with it for the company? There was no leader. There was no. How the fuck were you guys operating? Well, I'm so confused.
The servers
What is
for
going
Dragon
on?
were shut down, cutting off staff access. And what would then happen after that is one of those things where, you know, necessity can be the mother of invention, but the launch of Dauntless onto Steam involved inventions that would backfire. They invented the wrong things entirely. By now, we're approaching the end of 2024. Phoenix had one win in its history, Dauntless. Dauntless was still fairly big, but for all of this time, it had lived on the Epic Games Store. That exclusivity ended, and that gave Phoenix Labs their last chance, a Steam release of Dauntless on December 5th, 2024. Get that right, and maybe they could turn things around, and they could save what was left of the company. But to whet your appetite, it has a 17% user score right now. And that's because Phoenix
Ouch.
really did go for the mother of all Hail Marys. A complete business model overhaul and accompanying changes that essentially wiped player progress. Weapons, gear, player levels.
All of it?
Stuff that people had grinded out no longer.
No way, they lost all of their fucking season like all of the stuff they farmed, all of the cosmetics just all gone?
Mattered. Now, this update was apparently so grand that players would need to relearn the game, and that's why it was effectively a reset. But of course, those who tried rapidly learned that, well, the monetization was much worse. Weapons and cosmetics that people used to unlock through gameplay were now locked behind premium currency, behind loot boxes, and battle pass paywalls.
Yikes.
So was this a blatant and shameless cash grab?
Yep.
I think the answer is absolutely goddamn yes. But we can also understand why. Just look how screwed this team had been over the former 2 years. And to communicate to you just how bad and just how much of a betrayal these changes really felt, here's a quote from Jessie Lee Gagnon, who really did not mince her words. She's a former developer on this game. Quote, "Dauntless today is no longer free to slay. They've gutted the core gameplay and crafting mechanics. The essence of the Slayers has been, in fact, slayed to ribbons." That is absolutely damning. Now, it would not be long until the damage control. Mid-December saw them issue a public apology promising to make things right and to compensate players. But the thing is, in order to make things right, they'd actually need developers. But unfortunately,
they don't have
that is
them.
one of the many things that, by now, Phoenix Labs no longer has. As January 2025 drew to a close, we got the nail in the coffin. Reports that the, quote, majority of the studio had been laid off. And as it stands, Fae Farm, their other game that just doesn't... I mean, it wasn't awful, but it didn't really move the needle. It is content complete. It had been since July 2024. Doubt it'll be a major source of revenue. And Dauntless is still there. It's still running. It's still on Steam. You can download it. You can play it. The 17% score that I laid out used to be much worse. The few changes that they were able to make have pulled recent reviews to 34%, but as it stands, there doesn't appear to be any bloody developers who can work in the game. That isn't to say that the game is dead and gone. Dauntless is still a running game with players. There's probably an email list with millions of people on it and all of those Steam users. So it is possible that Dauntless could be sold off to another company. It could be turned around, but we have to be realistic, and being realistic, that's probably it. And so it's weird when you wrap this story up. Phoenix Labs implies, a winged beast and some sort of rebirth miracle. In reality, no, it's Icarus Labs. Just replace the sun with, like, bags of crypto money. But the weird thing is we don't really know exactly who to blame here, because it's so weird. That's where things are odd, because up to the Forte sale, things seem clear and rational. The idea that you get VC funding, that gets you started, then you get acquired. That's literally the business
They thought they were okay, right? And then, no, you got fucked.
Experienced a downturn in their core business, they made a strategic shift, and Phoenix was no longer super relevant to them, so Phoenix gets sold off. But then it's weird, because Phoenix gets sold off to a company that Garnera's parent heavily invested in. It's a crypto company, Forte Labs. That's why we get a crypto angle in Project Dragon. That's all really weird. But where it's the most bizarre to me, where I smell that there's a story, but I can't call it, is how little we know about the key players that made all
we
of
don't
this
know
happen.
anything about these people who invested.
Phoenix
We don't
Labs
know anything
leadership
about the
saw the writing on
shareholders
the
or
wall
what.
and basically said, "Fuck it, we'll sell
Like,
to
what
Forte.
the fuck
Money
is
me
happening?
now!" And
they just
immediately
like gutted
jumped because
it.
we saw
They
co-founder,
gutted a
CEO,
company. They
CFO
destroyed
leave.
a company.
But the thing is, there's no solid evidence there.
Yeah.
Even though the secrecy around Forte's identity is a humongous red flag. But as it stands, that's it for Dauntless. That's it for Phoenix, I would imagine. And this is just one of those stories. I mean, come on. Dauntless, big success, should have been more successful.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
Defeat
Wow, that's
was
insane.
grasped from the jaws.
Yeah,
of
Dauntless
that
was
victory.
doing so well as a free to play. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would have played it too. And then now it's gone. And it's gone. Due to corporate reasons, Percy's talking about how team was gutted by corporate overlords. I know, right? There's 2 current Steam players. That's sad, yeah. It's over. All over. Former top player and current world record Koshai trial holder here. These devs have been out of touch with the community since. Oh my god, he meant a whole. Was in beta. If I'm not wrong, yeah, I played in beta too. If I'm not wrong, there are still bugs present in the current games, or present in the beta as well. Time and time again, the devs make obnoxious decisions that only annoy whoever it affects. I believe the first big instance when the crit tonic was added. This was the first fall as many of the top players, many of whom are also in the highly exclusive playtest realm, quit the game because of the unethical shit that was possible in trials. Closely following the Reforged update arrived, I've been a Reforged hater since week 1 because it will always be dogshit system with loose character power simply so you're forced to replay old recycled content. I don't know of any game that does this. The only reason I grinded as many Reforges as I did was because there was a bug in escalation for a few weeks that let you grab 20 duplicates for a single amp, and you could one-shot your way through XCAS. Most fun I've ever had. Holy shit. Like almost an exploit, sort of. Sometimes later, the devs wanted to rework chain blades and brought it to the playtesters with the caveat of no new animations. What? I was a playtester, and this group consists of about 50 players that have close connections to the devs and have shown their competence throughout the community. It also contains very content creation partner. This place is under NDA. Mine has expired, and we are able to playtest new content and provide feedback. When Chainblades was tested, the devs made what they thought was good. Not a single player tester. The closest player and most knowledgeable people in the game liked these changes and everyone opposed them. The devs in their infinite wisdom ignored all the complaints and put them in the way they were. To this day, I have not heard a single person say they liked the change. After this, I lost all faith in the company and no longer participated in playtests. Finally, the most recent, the Awakening update, insight on it, I was in the beta for it. I and a couple others grinded to the soft cap of what was in store for the beta, for the beta testers, and we got there in about 30 hours. After this, grinding XP was nearly impossible because Island gave shit for XP. There was no sources of the Arc Stones, or whatever the XP currency is called, and escalations were bugged and didn't give anything. These issues were present from day 1 of the beta, and were reported on the day 1 of the beta. They were never fixed for the entirety of the beta. Another point of contention, cells prior to Awakening were kind of one and done system. Once you had the cells you needed, you were pretty much done with them. Awakening update introduced them as one-time use consumable, perks that would be permanently destroyed once removed or if you swap armor pieces. I think just every single person reported this interaction as a bug within the first couple days of the beta, and we were met with devs telling us it was intended. The fuck? Lots of backlash ensued. Holy shit, what the fuck is happening? There's no way that the devs did all this shit on purpose. The fuck? 2 to 3 weeks into the beta, after most people were done because there was nothing to do, and it wasn't receiving any updates, the devs came out and said the cells being destroyed when armor is swapped was actually a bug this whole time, and they simply wanted to see the community's reaction. What the fuck? What? They knew it was going to be negative because all the playtesters said it sucked. But they wanted to use us as a guinea pigs anyways. One last bothersome interaction is around weapon talents. When a weapon talent is crafted, there is not a single tutorial, breadcrumb, or anything resembling an indicator that would imply you need to do anything beyond simply crafting it. When the beta first started, we were excited to craft talents because they were some neat changes to the gameplay they would give. Unfortunately, my friend crafted one and it didn't seem to change anything. We brought this up to the devs and we were currently in VC with, and he said wasn't sure what's going on, and my friend made a bug report. Come to find out, you have to equip talents in the weapon menu or it won't do anything. This means that we either have another instance of devs deliberately giving us less information by this one not sharing where to equip them, or this developer, one of the people actively working on and playing this game, was completely oblivious to this system like us. Why would they do that though? That's so stupid. What? At the end of the day, there have been some truly tragic decisions made by those in the highest level of this company, but those we see more have done nothing to help. This downfall has been a long time coming and was at least deserved. I'm very sad to see such an important game in my life the final nails be put in their coffin, but I can't say any of it was unexpected. There you go. Feels like they kept striving for MVP. Being obnoxious and insufferable. Boy, who would have thought that coming? Wow. I guess World of Warcraft recycles old content. Yeah, that's unfortunate, man. Yeah, yeah, like I said. It's, yeah, like I said, back to the degradation of games nowadays. Like, nobody, all the money that's being spent is not being put in good use on these games. And when these games finally release, they're buggy as all hell. People don't like them, right? They have a very shit story. Maybe the combat is okay, but other than that, like the world seems lifeless and dead, right? All bad. All fucking bad, man. Oh, that's bad juju.